but it's okay. And ClimateScan is one of the adaptation tools. And there are a lot of tools, and you might know them like Opla and you see here a new uh, uh, a report that's brought out about nature-based solutions, and what is very important, of course, to share challenges. What the thing about ClimateScan is and why we use it here, not only because it's hosted in Groningen, but it's citizen science. So everyone can join. That's a very important message also from yesterday. Inclusiveness, everyone can enjoy the best management practices around the world. Well, I'm not gonna, if you like, uh, sorry. uh, Yes, it's recorded. If you like green infrastructure, for example, as you can see here, a lot of examples. These are in the Netherlands, but I will go to some international ones as well. So nature-based solutions is about getting nature back in the city. As discussed yesterday, it's a solution for drought, it's a solution for floodings, it's a solution for heat stress, but a lot of things, of course, also biodiversity and everything. And cities are getting greener. And one of the most important thing is to know um, what kind of greening can you do, and it could be very small, as you can see here. Some, they call it green stamps in the urban area, and it's quite inspiring to see that all around the world. And these are some examples you can find on ClimateScan, which is more in the Baltic region, where we quite do some work. So there are rain gardens all over the place, and you can see that also Sweden is in here. And we made a big database, as you can see here, with all these best management practices. So it's very practical, and what you can see here is, for example, this is a bio swale. So basically, it's a ditch, green ditch, where the water can infiltrate, but you can also use it as a playground. And you see some numbers here, and this is projects that are most visited from the database, which is quite useful, because then you know what citizens like or what is more shared. So that might be a best management practices from the view of citizen science. And also Norway is there, and also Johannesburg, that has a lot of projects like phytoremediation, so constructed wetlands, or we have water squares, and which is quite popular here on this platform, because you have a square. If you just put it lower, you can store water there and you can infiltrate it. So it's quite an example. So just to start you off, I would say let's do a quiz early in the morning. These are 4 squares. And my question is, which water square is in Sweden? Can you put that in the chat? And I hope you like quiz questions. What is your guess? I actually cannot see the chat, so maybe you can help me out, Gabriella or Lotte. What kind of answers we already have?
Yeah, we have Gintare says D. We have C, A, C, C, D, question mark, C, D. So, okay, all the answers, I think, but mainly people are wondering between C and D.
Yeah, okay. And in this case, and I will teach you, if you ever get these questions, I will teach you how to follow up on this. The right answer is C. That water square is in Malmo. And as a short visit, I can show you how to find that on ClimateScan. So what I'm just showing you, because you probably know about nature-based solutions and how they look, but you can also compare. So maybe another one, but we don't have to go through this. I always show this slide, for example. These are swales, and in a hilly area, which is in Holland quite impossible because we don't have hills. And but they make compartments, and then the water will overflow, and it's beautiful if it rains. People go out there and watch it. And then, of course, in the UK, that they started with compartments of these bioswales, quite nice. And D is from UK, but a lot of people in the Netherlands have no idea that, for example, C is in Enkhuizen, which is as flat can be, for example. So these are some fun things you can do. These are some questions, photos before and after. So that's always nice to see how you can green an area and put biodiversity. You have a street here before. This is in Tilburg, the Netherlands, and then they made it into a park, which is very, very nice. But also, and I'm now getting into the more climate scan area. What I found very nice to see was that there was a wetland on a roof in Malmo, which is quite visited a lot because that's quite special. It's connecting water retention on a roof, but also water purification in the area. So, and you already see here one of the slides of Climate Scan. The point is that you really know where it is. That you have maybe some downloads or research files, of course, a lot of pictures, so you can find it. And it has a category, which is quite important to that. So basically, a short introduction, what is nature-based solutions and where can you find them? And very important is that last part. So I can, after a couple of slides, show you that you can go anywhere in the world and see very concrete measures that might be an inspiration to you. And what we're going to do today is to go out or just stay at the laptop. You can put your projects from your neighborhood or just some inspiring projects you saw that you want to share with the world. You can just go out and do what Thomas does. Thomas is the guy here who always lies on the ground in weird situations, positions, so to say. But he makes beautiful pictures, and I just want to show you some of his pictures. And don't lie on the ground during this. Watch traffic, but he's very inspirational. And there are a lot of well, we call ourselves nerds that like to gather data. Beautiful pictures of inspiring stuff. So just some more pictures of people mapping. That's basically the thing what we're gonna do. So, but what happens with that map? If you, for example, no, let me just show you the map first. I think that might be. Let's be interactive. Um, Let me see. Okay, so if you're on your computer and you probably have more than one screen, then you can also do this on the side. So you just push climatescan.org. Can you see the map actually now or not?
We can see your the climate scan.
Yeah. So the explore the map, right?
Yes.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see your
Perfect.
screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So this is it. It's quite simple, straightforward. You get a map, as you saw on the screen. There are about I think now 6,000 or maybe even more projects around the world, as you can see, with a highlight in Europe. So Sweden, Netherlands, Denmark. As you can see, if you scroll in, most of the universities use this, and you can see high bullet points. And of course, from the Netherlands, we use it quite a lot. Even municipalities use it, so you have a lot of points. You have a legend. It's mostly as related yesterday, water. It's about heat stress. It's about nature, biodiversity. It's about urban agriculture or energy, which is more mitigation. Also about people. So this is actually what people themselves put on. It's not that we made it. If some people find it very nice to map tornadoes, that's possible as well. It could be anything. But the most category that is being used is water. So for example, I already showed you what's out there. Bioswales is quite a big thing. As you can see in the Netherlands now, if you push there, you see only bioswales. There are over 1,000 locations, close to 1,000 locations of bioswales in the Netherlands, which is interesting for researchers. If you would answer the question on the water square, you would just push water square. And then you see there are actually a lot of water squares in the Netherlands. So not only Rotterdam, who are the most famous, but you can find some, of course, in Sweden. There's actually one in Stockholm. And I didn't know that. So let's check that out. Oh, Joey. Joey has been busy. So Joey is a colleague of ours. So this is a water square. I didn't know that, actually. It's quite nice. Yeah. So it's a lower part of the ground. That's from Sweco. So you can watch pictures. So I'm just showing you how it works, so you can find this. So this will be flooded probably if there's a rain event here, which is quite nice because you use the existing space. And at this method, you can even put a square around it, so you know how big the water square is. I will show you later how you can use that even for calculations, which is tomorrow's workshop on rain tools, for example. So with this, you can, you know, visit a lot of things that you want to do: ponds, or floating green, or floating urbanization, which is quite popular in the Netherlands. So you can go to just show you another example, which is not related to nature-based solutions, because for example, um, floating urbanization is considered to be the most resilient option, because if it's too dry, the houses will just go down. If it's too wet, they will go up. So you would never have, and it's not being used a lot in the world. So I think that could be an inspiration. So what you see here, if you ever went to Amsterdam, this is all floating. This is a floating district, which is quite nice. So again, if you want to see more, you can watch pictures and even videos of how it looks and how it looks underwater. We did some research with underwater drones, showing that, of course, because Jan is an engineer in underwater drones. This is already 2014. So in this case, you can see actually the floating houses around here. This is all floating district, and we did some research with the yellow submarine, inspired, of course, by the Beatles in this case. So these are all floating houses, and we did some research on the effects of that. So and then you get some underwater footage. So just an example, as you can put anything on this website. So a big database, that's what it is. You are in control. You can just join. We can show you later how, and put your project on the map, which is quite easy. And I'm just as an introduction, so you see, okay, is it a toy or what are we doing? I will continue with with one of my presentations, as you can see. Which one? Yeah, this one. Okay. So now I'm going to show you the end result. If we're wait, yes. So this is Thomas doing great things. This is the map of the Netherlands, which is quite nice and filled up. As you can see, climate adaptation is everywhere in the Netherlands. So there are no region that there's nothing to see. So that's one which is quite important. And I hope to do that more in Sweden as well, where we're going to work on. And of course, there's some regions that seem to have more climate adaptation than others, and that's Nijmegen. But it's also on how people will put projects on the map. But maybe that's for something later. But this is very important for national level, because national level, nobody knows where climate adaptation is. It's only mostly the municipalities, and even municipalities don't map concrete measures. But you have to know which they are for inspiration, as we use it now, but also, for example, for maintenance. And the great thing as a researcher, you can analyze, because there are a lot of people that say you cannot infiltrate in the lower parts of the Netherlands, or if they say in the center of a city you cannot put climate adaptation. But that's not true, actually, because there are a lot of things you can do in the centers of cities, even if it's high-rise building. As you can see here, I was mapping in the center of Almere, sixth city of the Netherlands. And this is about heat stress, which is also important. And what we do, if you have the exact location, you can really make analyses that a person would say, well, I have a garden village which has more space. What can I do? And that would be biospheres, for example. And maybe in the center of a city, you could do permal pavement. So locations are very important. And this is what you see. I showed you that it has, of course, some pictures and location. That's the most important part for inspiration. But you can go even further. You can say, when is it built, for example, or how is there any measurements that we do a lot in climate cafes, like pollution of the topsoil or user experience? What does storytelling, basically, the other part of workshop here. And well, there's a lot of science around it. If you like it, this is the latest publication about citizen science, showing the best management practices, how it's used and everything. So I'm just going to browse through some of the examples. This is, I just pushed bioswale in the legenda. In this case, you see bioswales are all over in the Netherlands. And then you can also say in what kind of district do we find a lot of bioswales. And that could help for Sweden or other countries that bioswales could be implemented, even that there's not a lot of space, for example, or well, that kind of thing. So just browsing through, I showed this yesterday, which is quite inspiring. I hope that we're going to do this today. We went to Malmo where nothing was mapped, and in 2 days we had 175 points. And a lot of high officials were really surprised that there were so many things. And of course, you also see what kind of districts, and that this is Augustenburg, probably heard of it. It's an inspiration for all the world. And I've been there 2 times, and I'm impressed every time. And we did some papers about it as well, as being a scientist and a great climate cafe. And then also, of course, in Augustenburg, you can find out where are these exact locations and what is the DNA of Malmo. In this case, green roofs and walls. Not surprising, there's a Green Roof Institute there, is quite high, but also the ponds, which can be very effective and cheap. And so there's a lot of things you can do and which you can find. And it's very interesting also to see, is there water and art? So that will be the interest probably of Gabriella, or if you have urban farming, you're more into the social aspect. So there's so much to see in that neighborhood, which is very nice. So that would be great. And of course, you can do that for different cities, as we've done in some publications of Groningen, which has a lot of also green roofs because of a subsidy program, but also bioswale. So and also Enschede had the very old bioswale. So every city has a DNA. So if you map a lot, you can find out what that DNA is. So that's how you can use citizen science for research, and just showing that it's also around the world, which is very nice. More than 150 projects in South Africa. Of course, severe drought. If you analyze what they have, it's mostly about water demand management. It's mostly about gray water recycling because they don't have a lot of water. It's about rainwater harvesting. And it's quite surprising. We will face droughts a lot in the future already. 2018 was in Europe the driest year for most countries. And we really have to learn from countries like South Africa about what are the concrete measures that we can implement. So that's a bit of an example of how to use it. And there's a lot of publications about it, and I'm going to skip some stuff. And of course, also in Malmo, I already discussed. So if you want to read more about how we use ClimateScan in those regions, it's quite nice. And I'm always surprised with, I found this website. I didn't look at it, but we can use it probably for this workshop as well. There are some people that, of course, are already mapping things in Sweden and around the world, and I would be surprised that they're not maybe something from Gothenburg or anything. So we can try to find that and use to track down locations and nature-based solutions and stuff. And just as a start, if we know the locations, tomorrow I'm going to talk about rain tool, and if we know the locations and we can describe the swale or anything, we can actually draw it in. So for example, if this is a swale, we're going to do this tomorrow. Then we can also calculate with a very easy tool, how big is it? What is the effect on heat stress? How much water will it contain? What will it cost? And that can be existing measures that we do now in the first steps of analyzing ambition and action. And the second one would be if we see, I don't know, a certain area which would be great for a constructed wetland, a park area, then we can draw it in and also calculate what the costs are. And so that will really help stakeholders to get the message across. So I think this is what I mostly wanted to say about an introduction, and maybe see if there are any questions from you guys. Would it be just checking in if a professor was rambling on and it didn't make any sense, or was it Was it okay? So who used ClimateScan before? I think Tjerk Jan, indeed, and Thomas and Veronica. Yeah. So and how does it does this? Yeah, just a question relate to Sweden, or are there any questions about this? All clear or responses? Would it be a helpful tool to use in Gothenburg, for example? What do you guys think?
I think so. That
Yeah.
should be quite interesting. I mean, I'm quite new in Gothenburg. I'm here just since Easter, but
Yeah.
it looks really interesting.
Perfect. Yeah.
Could be also a nice way to explore the city through these.
Yes, definitely.
Looking for these places. Yeah.
Yeah. Because most of the others are in Gothenburg now, right?
Maybe we can do a raise of hands. Who is in Gothenburg? Who is in the Netherlands? Yeah, you guys are in
Exactly.
Gothenburg. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then Netherlands. Yeah. Nice.
Exactly.
I think we're like half. Yeah.
So it would be good to
Perfect.
share, and probably if you're in Gothenburg, I was in Gothenburg, I think 2 times, and maybe it might be nice just to visit Gothenburg, because most of the Dutch people already, of course, used ClimateScan. Shall I take you to Gothenburg and show you how you can, if you saw a great green roof, how to map that?
Yes, that would
Is
be
that
amazing.
Yeah, right? Because that's basically what we're gonna try out. So, okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. And feel free if there's any question just to put it in the chat or all right. So, well, just to browse in, of course, of course, Gothenburg. It's already quite. Oh, sorry, that's not Gothenburg. This is Gothenburg. So I've been there. So I remember that, and of course, Mölndal. So let's see what's out there already. Because I found some stuff in the center that I believe was green roof. Let's see. Oh, Flores. So you see, I submitted it. And that was really in the beginning of ClimateScan. So I'm quite curious on what this is. So probably you see a green roof here. So I think you can track down which hotel I was staying, because this is taken from a hotel room, I think, as you can see here. So it's quite a small roof, but it still counts. You know that in Berlin, they mapped all the green roofs, and you can do that by aerial pictures, of course. And they had, I think, 40 hectares of green roof. So that's amazing. That's green infrastructure through the city already. Like for biodiversity, a butterfly could pass through the city, and that's basically what we're making. And nobody knew. So people went down mapping, and I think that's an inspiring a thing that you could do as well. And of course, we will not find as many green roofs in Gothenburg, but it would be great to see what's out there. So, oh, this is the test of Lotte, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. How did it go, Lotte?
It works.
You wanna
Yeah.
you wanna share some knowledge about this dot?
Well, it's water there.
Yeah. So it's wet.
Oh, it was really a random test to put
Okay.
Well, what we did was that Lotte made a category, the pink category, and it's called ClimateCafe Gotenborg. So the idea is that now when you show everyone how they
Yes.
can join and map, that they can start off with mapping in this category, and then afterwards in the discussion we can help them like sort it, what kind of measure it is.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Indeed.
So I should log out then. Yes. Okay, there we go. So just showing how you put, suppose you're in a hotel, you see a green roof. Join us. that's it. Well, of course, I'm already joined, or you put your name, country, you make up a password, and that's basically it, and proving that you're not a robot. So if you've done that, you can log in, as you can see here, and then you get some really cool stuff. You get projects, for example. You can get categories, so you can make your own category. So if you find it useful to map squirrels in the park, or which is biodiversity, actually, it doesn't really matter. Of course, it would be nice if it's related to climate adaptation, of course. So these are categories. You can make one, a name, but now we can use the one which is just made, ClimateCafe Gotenborg Mölndal, as you can see here. And there's one project, and that's Lotte. And let's help her out. Only one is not very impressive. So we're gonna try to get some projects on the list. So if you push projects, you can find. This, of course, always works when you're presenting. Let's see. Let's try again. Yes. So this is the if you push projects, you get a list of projects. So here's a list of I think we're up to almost 6,500 projects, and this is the test of Lotte, for example. If you want to do, you saw a great green roof in Gothenburg. You just push new project, and you go to Gothenburg. And you saw a green roof. Let's see if you can, sometimes you can spot them very easily, and mostly not in the center, or maybe this great park. Just so that's the park, Skansen Kronan, and Kronan. So, and that's having permal pavement. I'm just saying. So you push the category, you can put the text here, whatever you want to say about it, and then you can add project, and then the project's already on the list. So it's quite easy to map, but you saw some more buttons. So you can go back to projects, for example, and then you see Skansen Kroran. I really butchered that name, by the way. But you can also edit the project, and then you can have images or videos or files, or you can even do characteristics or website links. So you can put everything to that point. So it's yeah, let's put a picture to that point. Let's see what's on the computer. For example, I think this is for a crazy friend of mine. Okay, let's put him on the project. He will love that. So this is Elvis, a famous Hammond organ player, by the way. He went on for the Dutch guys national television. Anyway, sidetrack. I put an image. I also can put let's see, a file. Of course, just upload website link. I can say he's on ClimateScan. .org. So, and of course you would copy this in, but let's see this, and I put everything, and then I do edit project, and then it will upload these points, and I can go back to projects, for example. And here's Elvis, the famous organ player in the Corona Park of Gothenburg. So that's it, and you can visit him on ClimateScan. So this is how you basically put a project. This actually is a very nice park, I think. There's probably a lot to see there, I would guess. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is maybe an infiltrating area, that all the water from this surrounding would go in here. So it's, and you can visit it, of course, on Google Maps. You can walk around in the city and to see. But probably if you're from Gothenburg or in Groningen, you will think of, oh, but that project is not on the list yet. I will want to try that to put on the list. So shall I stop talking again? Always. Sometimes you have to shut up a professor, otherwise they keep talking. So what do you guys think? Is this something you can do in your own area, or is it fun?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, already a couple of things that I saw the other day, which could be nice in there. Some urban
perfect.
farming, yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, because urban farming is quite a big category coming up. A lot of people like it, and of course, it's about water retention, mostly the rain barrels in the area. So yeah, that's a great project. And if there's maybe a category that you find relating to climate adaptation, it could be anything. So, and we can really use those points, of course, and especially on Friday, to show what's already out there. So I would love to see what kind of things. And I found the house of Hannah, for example. She has a green roof. You want to share some information about your, the roof near you, Hannah? Not to put you on the spot, but.
No worries. Yeah, we actually have some green roofs here in Eriksberg and Hisingen, Gothenburg. Yeah, I was just thinking about that when you was talking about this climate scan. So I thought, oh, yeah, we actually have some green roofs here, and it's not just one; there are several. So yeah, nice feature, because we often see a lot of birds on those roofs. They're trying to hatch their chicklets. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. No, it's really fun, and I know I shouldn't share too much, and probably we should get out. It's nice weather and stuff, but this one I found as well. This is quite nice. This was a green roof on a public toilet. So again, it's very small, but this is, I think, a trip from the Water Governance project. I think 2 years ago or something. And actually last year, or maybe also 2 years, but Gothenburg was first, the municipality of Utrecht implemented 400 green roofs on bus stops like this. And it was amazing. If you see that from the air, it's like the Berlin all over. Making a green facade through the city. And of course, bus stops really have a regular distance. So it's quite smart. And a lot of people, or a lot of municipalities, are following that example. And also in Edinburgh, for example, in Scotland, you can find these ones. And this is the one I saw. I was there just 2 days or something, went on a boat trip. I thought this was quite funny to share. So, I think, I put maybe in half a day just some stuff that I found that could be an inspiration for you guys. And I'm sure this was 2 years ago. We have a lot more that we could find. So I think this is maybe location. Yes.
Floris, while you're in Climate Scan, can you also show an example of a problem area?
Oh, yeah.
Because we are, in a bit, we're going to ask you guys to go out in your neighborhood, in your street, and to look for an example of such climate adaptive solutions, just like what Floris was saying, like green roofs or bioswales or wadis, etc. But we also wanted to ask you to also look for an example of a problem area. So somewhere where your street floods a lot, or Floris can show now some examples of that too. And then we can go on outside. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So problem areas, very important. Look for stuff. As you can see, if you push the legend, there are quite some locations that you can find. Copenhagen 2011, for example. But I want to show you, some of you are in Groningen, my favorite problem area in the Groningen. And that sounds probably not right, but it's an amazing site. And if it rains, you really have to go there. So if you see on a map, red dots, problem areas, it's citizen science. So it doesn't mean that Groningen has a lot of problem areas and Gothenburg doesn't. No, it means that they're not mapped. And of course, every city has problem areas. but which is fun also from the people from Gothenburg. Groningen is a very old city. People were very smart in the day back then, so they of course they put they lived on higher places, and so this is the central. There's a church, very nice, and there's a canal around it, also in Gothenburg, and the water would go from the higher point in the middle to the canals, so to say, and that was very smart. This was also a canal. This was or yeah, and it's called well, because of traffic they put a road on it, Gedempte Zuiderdiep, and if it rains, still the water goes from the highest point that didn't change through all the shopping street to this area. So this is actually also a problem area. But my favorite problem area is Winschoterdiep Kade in Groningen. I will show you why. Because when it rains, you get beautiful floodings here. And this is actually an international example. If you walk around and you like gully pots, and some people do, but most of them are crazy, you can find one location with 7 gully pots on a row. And this is because that's an indication that there is a flooding. And I will show you the video why this is one of my favorite locations. So when it rains, people go out and make pictures of problem areas. This is the location with the 7 gully pots here, but there's only one outlet, and that outlet didn't change, the same diameter. So when water goes through, and this is a bathtub basically, because this is the lining from the water authority that says if the water goes up in the canal, it cannot go into the city. So they make this high, and that's fine. But also, as in Gothenburg, subsiding takes place in the urban area. So then what happens? This stays in one line because they lifted up the water authority, and this becomes a bathtub. You can see already that guy being worried. You can see that, of course, through a small pipe, when there's very intensive rainfall, it will really flush out, and that's not enough. So it would be better, of course, to let the water just straight to it. So this is not very spectacular, but it becomes more spectacular. Look at that guy. Water into his house because of these cars going through. And it even gets a bit worse. I haven't watched this video in some time, but it gets spooky if emergency people like police or ambulance or anything cannot cross roads to help people, fire brigade and everything. So this is one of these locations that has to be, there should be solutions for this location. And one of the and this is not in itself. Most of the locations at the cloudburst in Copenhagen in 2011 were actually resulting because of this. Because also Copenhagen, also partly built by the Dutch, sorry for that, has canals with a lining and deeper parts. So the first thing that they had was very cost effective. They just basically made parts of it lower, so the water at the stormwater event can just flow out to this, because you see there's a lot of water storage here. So so that's one example of maybe one of my favorite problem areas. And maybe, oh, sorry.
Thank you,
Shall I?
Floris.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think due to time, it's
Yes,
good
exactly.
to move on to the exercise, but thank you a lot for showing all of this. I want to share with you in the chat, some of you already know it, we worked in it yesterday, but this is the Miro board. So if you click on the link and enter the password, you're going to enter the Miro board we made for this week. You can see on the day of Monday, we had introduction lectures, but afterwards we also had introductions with each other, like getting to know each other, who is who. I would like to ask the people who were not there yesterday, would be lovely if you can fill it in. And then we can, after the exercise, you can share with us, and well, we can also get to know you. So please fill in the board of yourself with your name, picture, where you're from. And we asked everyone yesterday to upload a picture that describes you more than 1,000 words. So it can be something that is your favorite food or your favorite place in the world or your hobby, something that tells a lot about you. So please fill that in, that would be lovely. And then if you scroll to the right, you can see the day Tuesday. And here we made this board where every one of you can upload a picture of climate adaptive measure and a picture of problem area. And you can put your name under and the link to ClimateScan where you upload it. So with this, we would like to send you out, well, ask you to go out in your street, in your neighborhood, to go on an expedition. Pre-corona times, we would have done this together. Unfortunate that we cannot be there with you, but we still wanted to do something physical with you. So we thought, okay, would be lovely to also let you go on an exploration mission. So we would like to challenge you to find climate adaptive measures in and around your neighborhood. Take a picture of them. Don't really complicate with a long text around it. It's more about the experience, exploring and taking the photos. And it would be lovely if you can then upload that, map it on the map, just like Floris explained with ClimateScan. And next to the pictures, we also wanted to ask you to challenge you actually to talk to a neighbor or someone that lives on your street, in your neighborhood. And I will give the word to Lotte. Maybe Lotte, you can explain a bit about that.
Yes. Yes, so as you saw, these adaptive measures are often placed in the public domain. So this means that actually adaptation has an impact on your living environments and also has an impact on the people living there. So I told yesterday a little bit about storytelling, that there are more structured ways of collecting stories and that there are more creative or unstructured way to collect stories. And I prepared some questions that can guide you in different themes to ask about the living environment of the people. So one of the themes is the current environment. So how do people perceive their current environment? Are they happy with their current environment, and why? If so, why? And if not, why not? Another theme is really specific on the adaptive measures themselves. So if people are aware that there are adaptive measures, that's not always the case, then we can ask what they think about this adaptive measure, if they know what it does and why it's there. Then there's a third theme, which is more about changes in the environment. So not only about the current environment, but also looking back a little bit at how did your living environment change? What made this change happen? What were the drivers of this change? And did you like this change? And the fourth theme is about climate change itself. So if they have experience with, for example, heavy rainfalls or drought or intense heat, and if they did something about it, and if so, what did they do? Or if they are afraid it would happen more often. So these are like 4 basic broad themes. I will put a file in the chat, and you can check that. So alongside with collecting the pictures and the problem areas, we would really like to ask you to talk to at least one neighbor or someone in the area to have a little bit of understanding of how the environment is perceived on the one hand. So it's about perceptions, and on the other hand, what are the values that people give to their environment. And so it's about perceived changes, but also if people like these changes or not. So there's this balance in this. So I think I told you everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is it.
Yeah, it would be lovely if you can upload the file in the chat. So
Oh yeah, and I think there's this category, right? That you can also put the stories in on ClimateScan. So you can see if we can also collect stories on ClimateScan.
yeah, indeed. So like Floris showed, there is this pink category now called ClimateCafe Gotenborg Mölndal. So when you make a profile and you're in ClimateScan and you want to map the pictures, perhaps below the pictures in the text description, you can describe a bit the story. Well, story is maybe a big word, so don't feel scared about it. It's more, if you see someone in the street, your neighbor, you can always ask them, hey, are you already familiar with climate change adaptation? What do you think about it? Oh, I just discovered this bioswale, or did you know here we have this? So you can just start a conversation with someone in your area, and just like Lotte said, see their perception on the topic. Well, do you have any questions? Because it was a lot of explanations, so please let us know. Were you able to sign up in ClimateScan? Does it work for you? Do you have any practical questions around the assignment? No? Okay, wow. Oh,
Thomas.
oh,
Sorry.
Thomas, yeah.
Yeah, so for the people in the Netherlands, do we have to map in our neighborhood, or do we have to map go online to Gothenburg and have to map over there?
Well, I think you can choose, but like personally, I was thinking it would be an interesting comparison to see how the different cities approach the issue. What can we learn from one another? But if you feel like you really, really want to visit Gothenburg, go ahead and do that.
I would do, because most of the things in Groningen is already mapped. You probably saw that already, Thomas. So it's probably a very nice experience if you would go to Gothenburg, and it's. I forgot actually to mention two things. One, I didn't put on my camera, I think. So welcome. And there's also an app, which is quite nice to go out. I didn't explain that, but it's in the tutorial that Joey Koning made. And it's quite straightforward. You can download it and put that there.
The ClimateScan app, yes.
Yeah,
and just
exactly.
like Lotte said, our idea was to also give you some off-screen time. So would be good for you to also go out a bit outside for fresh air and explore your area. Whatever you find is okay. We're going to have a nice discussion afterwards. If you don't find anything, that's also finding. But yes, let's give you some time to explore your street and your area. And well, we can have a discussion about it. We will meet in this link. Let's meet in 10 for 10, yeah, 1 hour. Yeah, we can meet in 1 hour and then take a little bit of extra time in the coffee break. Well, yes, have fun. And yesterday, the group or the students made an app, so maybe they can add the new participants of today, or like you can share things with each other if needed in that hour to help each other out. So please feel free to to contact each other. Yeah, okay, well, see you in an hour in this link. Very curious what you guys are going to find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See you.
All right, have fun.
Bye, good luck.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
See you.
Bye.
Hey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Annemarie en Peter are also gonna map. Oh, gaan ook mappen. Nee, Engels. Are also gonna map.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You said that?
No, but there, yes.
Yeah, I thought that they will stay to talk to us, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I showed Hannah before, of course, because they didn't have a clue. So I should have given them. Well, I gave a short introduction in some of the meetings a couple of time ago, and then to make it personal, I just showed her that where do you live, and there's always something to see.
Yeah.
But you have to look at different eyes. So that's the whole thing. So I hope they come up with a lot of stuff. But at least they can find floodings in the areas or photos of it, or that's quite easy to do. So
yeah, they seemed excited. So I don't know. I think for the people who were not there yesterday, it's a bit more like, whoa, what's going on? But
yeah.
see.
But then So we check in 10. Oh, what was it again? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, the workshop
something.
was supposed to be until 11, but then I think now that we are a little bit over time, I think they're going to be back at 11. I don't know if you have some extra minutes or you have a next meeting, but we can always have the discussion with them, me and Lotte.
Let me check.
Okay.
Wij praten. Checking 2 agendas. I do have 2 meetings actually at the same time.
Okay.
What we can do, it's a half an hour, so I can check in probably a bit later, but you might be ready. But I think you got this, right?
Yeah, we can. I mean, yes, it will be okay.
Yeah, but okay, that's good. Yeah, I will check in when I can. Yeah.
Okay.
And but it's nice to just go over what they saw and stuff. And you're recording, right? Can we see the recording?
Yeah. I'm still. I also recorded yesterday, and this one.
Okay.
It's still recording now.
So. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I will have to leave at 11 ish, but I will check in a bit before.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let's meet at like 10:50 or something.
Exactly.
Here,
perfect.
and maybe the students are earlier. Well, yeah.
Great.
Okay. Yes.
Will do.
Thank you.
Perfect. Bye.
Bye.
Very nice. Perfect.
Amazing. This is so hybrid.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. It feels very high tech.
Yes. Really nice. Yeah, also with what we did now with the students, that they had to go out on their own in their street. That was a very nice experience too.
Bara vi som är uppkopplade hela tiden.
Gabriella?
Yeah.
I am able to share screen in
Yes.
between. Okay. We switch from my camera to there.
Yes. Let me know when do you want to do that.
Okay.
Do you first gonna present and introduce it?
Yeah,
and then
I'm first introducing.
Okay, then I'm gonna remove them from the spotlight for now. Okay.
Now you're on the spotlight.
Oh no, now I am in the spotlight. Oh. Okay.
Du får muta när muta och stänga av när vi är färdiga.
Just det är viktigt.
Eller Peter.
Ja. Men du ska inte säga något först nu, kan jag börja först?
Ja,
börja.
Okay, well,
kan du muta oss när vi inte ska prata?
Yes, I muted you. Okay, I muted you for now. Okay, are you all back? Yes, I see you're all already back. I hope Yuva, Thomas, and Gintare, you're also back. Yeah, perfect. It's quite exciting. We have people in the field, so they're going to lead you through a virtual walk, field trip. Well, before that, I will give the floor to Peter, who will give an introduction to this workshop. So he will share his screen, and then after that, we'll go to the people in the field. So yeah, exciting.
Yeah, thank you. And welcome to this workshop. We call it River Walk, and we are going to do this along Mölndal in the middle of Gothenburg. And my name is Peter Nordbrandt. I'm a biologist and working at the County Administration Board in Gothenburg. And this is the first time, to our knowledge, that we are doing a digital river walk, so a little bit exciting how we managed this. And one of us are going to present today is by the river, and we will, rest of us, we will be walking in front of our computers. And we will switch between the field and me showing some pictures and maps. So please have your microphones turned off. And a river walk is supposed to be an interactive way of learning together. It's a little bit more difficult here, of course, but you can put the questions in the chat, please, so we can see them. Yeah, first a presentation of the people who are out in the field. Can you hear us out in the field?
Oh, I muted them. Wait, ask to unmute. Björn, Magnus, can you hear us? Can you unmute? Oh. We cannot hear you. Can you unmute on Björn's iPhone? Okay, good. Yes. Hello.
Yeah. My name is Mikael Nilsson, and I'm from the Mölndal Water Council.
I am Magnus Jelang, and I'm a curator at the Gothenburg Natural History Museum.
Yes, hi, and my name is Björn Lagerdal. I work at the County Administrative Board for Västra Götaland. And I would also like to welcome you to this river walk that we're going to guide you through today. And a river walk is a concept which basically means that a group of people discover a watercourse together based on the participants' knowledge and curiosity. So in a normal case, we would have wanted all of you guys to come here to be with us, and we would walk along this beautiful watercourse together and talk about what we would find and different aspects. But today you're gonna have to settle with us as the group, me, Magnus, and Mikael. We're gonna walk along the river, make a few stops, and we're gonna discuss what we find and share it with you through the screen. So we hope that it's gonna work out fine that way too. So welcome.
Thank you.
And back to you, Peter.
And yeah.
Yes, we can see your screen now, Peter. Perfect.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we first take a look where we are on the map, and here's a map of the area, and you can see Gothenburg and Mölndal urban areas and also the big river Göta älv. And the red spot is the place where we are right now. And we also, it's important for us to put the catchment area from Mölndalsån on the map so we can see all the rainfall in this area seeks its way out to the point where we just are now. And it's about 60 kilometers long. It's a rather small catchment area. And a big part of it, the upland nature is a lot of forests, and there's lots of lakes, wetlands, and it's a lot of nature, of course. And then this water carried to Mölndal and Göteborg. It has historically, of course, and of course today, a very important, crucial importance for Göteborg and Mölndal. And we talk more about that later. But now we will start the exploring of Mölndalsån in the middle of Gothenburg together, live and direct from the riverside. Back to you.
Okay, you hear me now? Yes, I can hear myself as well. It's a bit strange with the technology. I need to hear from one phone and talk into another. So, reporters in the field. Now we are standing actually in the center of Gothenburg. We are about 2 kilometers upstreams from where Mölndalsån floats into Göta älv. And we're standing in alongside a dug canal, which is called Fattighusån, which you will hear a little bit about the history soon from Peter. And as you can see, this is a very urban environment. We got asphalt, we got the traffic, a big sports stadium, you don't see it, but the traffic and everything, it's very noisy here. We're gonna move a little bit upstreams soon, so we have a slightly different environment, but this is as noisy as it will be today. This canal is dug, as I told you, to bring water into the canals around Gothenburg. And until 2013, it was a dam that just behind me, you can see the little yellow house there. On the other side, there is Mölndalsån, actually, so we don't see it from here. And that has been an obstacle for the fishes and the other organisms until 2013, when this passage, this artificial passage, was made. And you can see Mikael standing there, and he's trying to find some freshwater living insects and so on. And we will see much more of that soon. I think this was what I was about to say here. So you will hear a little bit more about the history from Peter right now, and we will rush upstreams and meet you 200 meters further up in 4 minutes.
Yes, and here you can see a more close picture of the place where we have seen, and you can see the dam on the right side of the circle with the Mölndalsån, and the canal to the left. And there is also a built pass for fishes, because the dam was an obstacle for fish migration before. And 2013, the Gothenburg city, where they built this passage for migrating fishes as salmon and trouts. So now they can fish up in the stream and spawn. Yes, and we talked a little about history, and we heard very inspiring history yesterday, but here's a little bit repetition perhaps. Here you can see where we are in this map from 1782. You see the red spot, and also a picture how it looked like before. The city is founded 1621, and it was very hard to build the city. We heard that yesterday. It was flat and wet and clayey, and they hired Dutch people to make these canals, because they were expert on this. And you can also see the Mölndal River. It's going straight upwards to the Göta Älv. And then you see the canal that was dug to support water to the canal system in the city. And that was used for drinking water, the canal system in Gothenburg. And also they threw the waste into the water, so it was not so very healthy to drink that water. But in 1787, they built a pipe from a spring from Kallebäck, 4 kilometers away, upstreams, with the fresh water into the city. And this pipe was used until 1870. But Mölndal is still very important for Gothenburg. Water that supplies drinking water to 300,000 people is taken from a lake upstreams that called Rådasjön. And there's a picture from the city, 1787. Looks like, and you can see the water. It's a lot of water. It's important with the water. And the canal is called Fattighusån. It's Poor House Canal. And that's because you can see on the map beside the red spot that stands the city's poor house. It was a house that was built. They had to build this house everywhere where the people who not can support themselves often lived in this so-called poor house, and they were taken care of, or they had to take care of each other in this poor house. And also interesting to see in the pictures 1707 that there's no trees. They have used all trees. It was totally open, the landscape. And later, it looks like this. This is a picture from today. And if you compare, it's very big different. It was a big lake before, but now it's more like a channel, but a broad channel. And it's the Göta Älv. And of course, they need more land to build on, and they have filled it up. Yeah, and Mölndal, even power from the water was important for Gothenburg, and especially from Mölndal. It was 7 kilometers upstreams. It was a high fall, and beside this fall, that they built industries powered by the hydropower. And from this picture from 1707, you can see how the river previously it was a broad fall down the slopes at Mölndal. And nowadays it looks like this. It's a much more narrow fall and into canals and tubes between the earlier industrial buildings. And also the Mölndal River was very important for the transport, of course, because they made a lot of things here in this area in Mölndal, and then they transported on the river with the boats or barges to Gothenburg and then further out in the world. So in many ways, the Mölndal zone have been so important for Gothenburg historically and today. Yeah, and now I think we can go back to the river.
Can you, yes, you can hear me? Great.
Yes, yes.
It seems like this works actually. Now we have moved 200 meters upstreams. It's a little bit calmer here. And we are standing at the riverside of Mölndal zone. There's a small green strip between the river and a small road or path for pedestrians and bicycles. But it's still, of course, in central Gothenburg. We are going to do some netting here. Mikael will have a swift net, and we are going to catch some freshwater organisms here. It is very central, but this water, of course, as for all waters, and as you heard from Peter earlier, this originates from all of the catchment area, and so does the biodiversity as well. And biodiversity and climate are very tight linked together, and it's very important to keep the biodiversity and as well as taking care of the climate. It goes definitely hand in hand. If you don't take care of the biodiversity, then the climate is impossible to do something about, and the other way around. We are, as all of you know, in the middle of a great extinction. And I want to say something about that, because every species that we lost is a big risk for ourselves, for the nature, for the ecosystem, and for the climate as well. And we cannot predict what happens when we lose species in the ecosystem. We have seen, of course, the last year what one thing that could happen. It could be outbreaks of pandemics and so on. It's very much linked to use of resources and very much linked to biodiversity loss. Now Mikael has already catched quite a lot actually, so we can look down here, and while we do that, you are free to ask questions or comments or anything. I can hear you, so you can be rude and just shout out. What we see here is the two most striking things here is these two dragonfly larvae. They are typically found in these kind of areas or in freshwater, like riversides or ponds or whatever. We actually have some tadpoles. It's living dangerous because the dragonflies can eat tadpoles. We have freshwater isopods here, very common species, and water beetles, mayflies, and you got another dragonfly. What is I don't remember the English names of it. And why are we doing this is a big question. Every species that we find can tell you something about the water, about the environment, and so on. For example, you can see these snails or the mollusks. They can tell you about acidification and things like that. A lot of the mayflies and dragonflies can tell you about the nutrient level, the eutrophication, and also pollution. Different species are different level of sensitivity for pollutions and so on. Another thing we see here is these plants. It's maybe both. I don't know which is which, but American and Canadian water waterweed. Yeah, it's a alien species in Sweden or in Europe, invasive, and it's definitely taking over competing other species. So it's not a positive species to find, but you find it everywhere. Do you have any questions or comments? What you say?
How has the biodiversity evolved in the Mölndal River? Like,
good question. The simple answer is it has always been here, and it's maybe not here as much as it has been historically, but since the water is linked to the rest of the catchment area and all the river upstreams, then the species is, I mean, it's the same species and it's linked together. So it's not an isolated water here in Gothenburg. It's connected to the rest of the catchment area, and that's a very important point to keep in mind.
And if I can, in there, there's also connection to the terrestrial environment, the land surrounding the water, because you have the tadpoles here, and they're living on land, and you have the dragonflies, and they live perhaps 2 years in the water, and then some months on land. And it's very good with the green corridors surrounding the water, and that's very important. So you can have those animals as indicators for the biodiversity, both in water and land. That's interesting.
I imagine it's quite resilient because it has like a backup all around in the catchment area through lakes and so on.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
and that is why this artificial passage is so important. It makes the water upstreams and downstreams more resilient as well.
Yeah, we had a question here about the fish passage. How does it work? And it's very simple because it's like a small river besides the dam. You make a natural water course. And sometimes if it's steep, you have to have a long man-made water course about somewhere like a windling water course. So just like that, and then you have to look after so you have water in this water course. But it's very simple. The hard thing it can be for the fish to find the way to this, but you have to look for that.
And we had also another question from Yuva. I think you wanted to ask something as well.
Oh yes, I was just curious about when there are big infrastructure projects, terrestrial, like there is now in Gothenburg. Can you see impacts in the freshwater environment then on species?
Yeah. Can you take it?
Yeah, I can take it. Of course, it can have a big impact, especially if you don't think careful enough. And I think historically it has had huge impact. Today, authorities and the building companies, everything, they try to take as much care as possible, but still, well, and you can do compensations around and make it as good as possible, or maybe not as good as possible, but as little bad as possible. Still, there is, of course, a big impact. One thing I could tell about the terrestrial environment, here we have a corridor of trees, which is very positive. It's positive because it's like another passage for birds and insects and bats, and I would say especially nocturnal animals like moths and bats and so on. They are very sensitive for artificial lights, and in this urban area, it's hopeless. Of course, it's a big. The whole city is a big obstacle. But the corridors of trees make shadows, and it's the same for fishes as well. Eels are well known for migrating only when it's dark, for example. So it has, if you don't think about this and cut the trees and don't keep the green strips and so the green zones, then it has a very big impact. I think we need to move on to the other, the next stop.
Yeah. But I think you very easy can do very big improvements if you have this in mind in inner city and in urban areas. But you have to think about it and be aware of it. And you can see the place where we were. And then here's a picture, a principal image of a flood plain. And floodings, they are actually a natural part of the life of the streams and rivers. So it's natural. It's a necessary way for the watercourse to handle a lot of water, and therefore the river needs space when water level is high. We call these land areas that naturally get covered with water for floodplains. And we can actually see them as a natural part of the watercourse. And these plains, the flooding makes different environments on the floodplain, and the environments that have very high productive ecosystems and a very high number of different species. I think this is one of the most biological, productive and diverse environments that we have. And in many places, the floodplain has been exploited. So houses and roads have been built, and thus the opportunities for the flooding have been removed or decreased. And the flooding had become a problem for the urban environment, and therefore regular dredging, where you remove sediments from the bottom, and protection against erosion and water regulation are required to prevent damage. So totally, we have changed the system here. And now they are on the next place, I think. And this is the third and last one.
So I couldn't hear you clearly in the end, Peter, but I think you said it's over to the field or something like that. Oh, I go on. Okay, so now we are on the last stop, and we are just 100 meters upstreams from where we just stopped and did the netting. Here, it is a perfect place to talk about this green zone and other effects or services, so whatever you want to call it. First of all, I'm standing next to a dead tree, and dead wood is the most living tree that you can find. Dead trees live much more than living trees, because a lot of insects like beetle larvae, for example, they're eating the wood and fungi and so on. And of course, a lot of fungi living there. So it's very important to save, to not clean up too much. That's especially in urban areas, it's a very common mistake to take away everything that's not perfectly healthy and so on. And that makes a very sterile or very dead environment. But if you keep, for example, dead trees, it's very, very good for the biodiversity. And compared to the place where we did the netting, here the green zone is a little bit wider. It's not very wide. You can see if the deer hang on here. You can see it's what is it, 15 meters or something like that. So it's narrow, but it's right between the river and a small walk for pedestrians and bicycles. And this is it has effects that start to get more and more attention. It's called green rehab or some, quite often. It does a lot good for humans, actually, for human health, because every morning or every day people go to work and back along these along the river here. And because this green zone with a lot of bird songs and with different kind of trees, and so maybe you can hear a blackbird in the background, I don't know. It has a lot of effect on human health. There is actually studies that are pretty cool, actually, where affect people to some stress. In this case, it was electric shocks. So it was a cool, really a harsh study. So they had on the people in the study, they had electric shocks over the brain, and measure how what stress impact did that have on the persons. And the first thing they found out is if they at the same time heard bird songs, the stress level was twice as high as if they didn't hear bird songs and water flow and stuff like that. And next thing they saw was that recovery from stress was much shorter if they at the same time could hear bird songs and so on. And even funnier is that if there was a big difference between if you heard like one species or if you heard 10 species. So the diversity has a big effect on the recovery time. So if you are in a diverse environment, you have a much better recovery from stress and so on. And that is coming more and more. The people, stakeholders, for example, they notice this and take it seriously because it is a really serious matter. And it's very good for the biodiversity itself, of course. I must check the time. We are already a bit late, but we started late as well. I can say something very quick about, you see the parking place on the other, or parking places. It's parking place after parking place here. And they are not very well used. There's a few cars, but this raises a question that is quite important. Should we have these huge areas where we park a few cars in the central of Gothenburg? Is that really a well-spent area and well-spent money? Or should we take some of these areas and reconstruct a green area? It can be almost like a park, and we can let the water overflow them when the water is high, so we can use them as flood plains, like Peter told about, and we can do it more or less like a water biodiversity park, where people can use it for recreation, and it's very good for the water system and for the water levels and so on, and it's very good for the biodiversity and water quality, of course. So that's just a question to raise or to think about. That should be a really massive spot on Climate Scan. Do you have any questions, or are there any questions in the chat, Peter? Or did I miss something?
No, there are no questions in the chat just now.
People are getting hungry.
Yeah.
Do you have, guys, any questions for Magnus or for Peter?
Yeah, I might have a question. So what in your opinion are the main impacts and risks associated with the Mölndal River? Is it flooding or is it other risks, especially maybe regarding to climate change? Yes,
I think that the big risk is flooding, and there have been events with the flooding before with a lot of water, especially in Mölndal, besides Mölndal zone. So yeah, I think so. And then of course you also have problem with the old what do you say, poisons when it are in the ground, old depositions where it can be leaking poisons from. But as you can see, the water is it seems to be clean. Yeah.
Thank you, Magnus and Peter. So interesting and very nice the way it works to also be part of the field and explore the river with you together. I also wanted to give space if there are questions on maybe on the biodiversity or on what they caught with the net. I know some of you here, like Veronica, you're into biodiversity already with some expertise. So I don't know if you have any questions or maybe curious about some species or what do they mean? But just
it was beautiful to see all that, and because I did also this So this kind of catchment. So it's very beautiful to see that they're doing that. Then they show to the other people this kind of action to know better our environment. And yeah, and my question could be if in your opinion, this kind of meeting like this and just give to the people the knowing about the diversity of their environment, also in the cities, can give them more respect for the nature. So the relation with the nature could be growing in a more respect way than before, in your opinion?
Definitely. I think that is a very important issue that you raised and that I forgot to talk about. Just showing people and letting people experience the biodiversity is extremely important. And it actually begins much earlier, or should begin. You are students and already quite you're well educated and everything, but this should start with the kids, really, and of course in all levels. Stakeholders, to bring stakeholders out with the SWIFT-net is perfect, but it is very important. The awareness of the biodiversity is a key aspect to make people want to protect it. You don't want to protect anything you don't know exist. And in Sweden, it has shown that the species, the knowledge about species has decreased dramatically. A typical Swedish kid know more cartoon characters than a natural species, which is alarming.
Yeah.
So they will protect the cartoon characters, but not the species.
Yeah.
Thank
We have
you.
a raised hand too.
Yeah, I have a question, but connecting to that. So I studied the Guadalquivir River Basin in Spain for my bachelor's, and what we saw that there was actually a big issue was miscommunication between different authorities.
Mm-hmm.
Do you encounter similar? So actually, when it comes to problem solving or analyzing, there is just a delay between local communities and expert to all the different authorities that are involved in the river basin management. How does it? Have you encountered issues like that here in Sweden or in Gothenburg?
Not at all. Oh, yes, of course we have. I think it's a big issue in everywhere. You need much more collaboration and cooperation between authorities and in authorities, and between authorities and between authorities on local levels and on the local level. So you need a lot of meeting places where you can cooperate and get a more holistic view of the problem and the solutions. So I think that's very important, but it's a big problem and we need to be aware of that and to make space for it and to make a budget for it also. It doesn't go.
Yeah, I remember when, like, some things that were just really silly, like that things didn't work because some authorities just didn't communicate well. And it just,
yeah, I can say it's
like
the same.
wasting money in a lot of senses.
Here.
A lot of time.
Yeah, and I can. This is a tool for that. I think we can do this together, and when do this together is very good with different background and with different knowledge and from different places where we can share knowledge about and we can talk about the concrete environment. and we can feel it, and we can see it, and we can smell it and hear it. So I think that's it's a good tool to use. And water especially very good, because you don't know anything about the life under the surface. So it's interesting for all to see that, what's there.
Thank you.
Water is something that everybody can connect to in some way. So it's very good to gather around the water. And it's very obvious it is important.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think, yeah, really, really interesting. And also, well, just wanted to say applause for the perfect presentation and really doing this in hybrid way. It worked very well. So thank you for that. And well, giving space for the lunch break, I think it's a good time to do that so everyone can, oh, you got a lot of applauses.
Thank you for joining this.
The virtual applause.
Virtual applause.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the same over to you.
Oh, so nice. Well, we will be back here around at 1 o'clock in the same Zoom link, and then you can continue with the exercise and the next part of the workshop. Right?
Perfect.
Okay.
See you soon.
Yes, see you soon at 1.
It's probably stuck in traffic jam somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to share my screen, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah. Like this. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this part we think we'll. This is part is about Riverwalk, but also about the ecosystem services and about the catchment area. How does it function, and how does it work, and how does it look like? So we are doing an introduction first, where we are talking about this, and we can have a discussion about it, and then we think we will invite you to do your own Riverwalk, if it's possible. So, and there you also can use the climate scan app, and so if it works. And then we have a last part where we talk about what did you find out there, if you have been able to be there. Yeah. So we start with the introduction.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. So we start more or less where we ended out in the field, and talk about what impact does the biodiversity has on us as humans and on the environment, and which role does the water have, for example. And this photo here is a good representation, I think, with this little campfire and the pouring water and the trees and the environment, and this the for us to be in nature, hearing all the sounds, smelling and tasting and just be in the nature is a really important thing for us. I mean, we have evolved in this environment, of course. We are very much evolved to be in nature, and that makes us calm and makes us able to stress down and so on. And at the same time, we need the biodiversity to keep for the ecosystem to keep stable and for the nature around us. If the nature around us is not stable, then we are probably one of the first, not the first species, but definitely one of the species that will disappear as well, because we are so dependent on the ecosystem around us. And as I mentioned in the field, for example, it has been very clear last 2 years, and the reason why we have this virtually and not in the field is really because we do not take care of the nature and the biodiversity and the resources. And the other thing is there came in a question or in a comment, the way we can use the water and the biodiversity and the environment to enthusiase and to make people learn about nature, and like we said, if you don't know, I mean, if you don't know biodiversity, you will not protect biodiversity. So it's very important, and it is a great fun. These kids sitting with a amplifier and looking in the water here, you don't need to tell them to look happy. We are going to take a photo of you. They are just so into it directly when they come there, and you do that as well. You don't need to be a kid for being totally absorbed of all the life you see. So it's fantastic. So yeah, just a very short start about that.
Yeah, and also the old people, you can see down there. So it's I can tell you that's the teachers for the children. So they're so into it. And the water molecule in itself is very inspiring and fantastic, and we can think about that because the water molecule is a kind of link between the materia, the dead materia, and life. The liquid water is essential for life, and also it creates the life-friendly Earth, and the water creates a climate on Earth. So it's totally crucial. And can think about what that thimble do there. It's you know when you have a thread and a needle, and you put this I think it calls thimble on the finger. I didn't know, but I took a picture of it. And if you fill that with water, this thimble, you can think about how many water molecules are in there. Do you know that? Have you thought about that? No. But if you can calculate this, and if you calculate that, you can see that it's almost about as many as the stars in the whole universe in that thimble. So nature is amazing. And this water, it has unique properties, total unique properties. And for example, it is a very excellent solvent transport medium. It transports the building stones in the ecosystems, and in our cells and in our bodies. And that's the water that transport the building stones for life. And it's a kind of carrier of communication in that way. So, and that's very interesting to think about, because the universe is not a machine. It's like a enormous network and self-organization network, and it communicates. The part have to communicate to each other, and water is one way of communicating and transporting different parts in the ecosystem. And another important thing is that it can store so much heat. It can store a lot of heat and then distribute the energy, the heat around the whole Earth with, for example, the oceans and with the water in the atmosphere. So there's some of those unique properties. And the thing that does this unique water molecule is the angle of the water molecule. They have the special angle of the form of the molecule. That's the thing of the water.
So, yes, and I'm going to say two things about this little figure down there. And the first thing, because many of you are students in you have the society point of view in your education, right? With both design and how to make different solutions and so on. And a funny thing about water is that the water itself is like one of the major things that shape the surroundings, and of course you can see that very clearly in along river systems. So it's really a design tool as well, but it works its own way, and often, of course, the best in a very in a way that is very natural, but totally natural. The other thing I want to say is we talked about floodplains, and we want to show you just a simulation what they look like. Floodplains are very important environments that are today very rare. Actually, the natural floodplains are quite rare today. It has been a very common environment, and it is also a very species diverse environment. One of the most diverse freshwater environments, actually, and it keeps the water in the landscape working as a buffer, so the flooding problems downstreams are getting less and less problematic if you have floodplains upstreams. Of course, downstreams, there's always a town in the downstreams in almost all water river systems in at least in the Western world. So they play a very important role, both for the nature itself and for us. I think that's what all I wanted to say about this.
Yeah, and if we're talking about ecosystem services, this water cycle is of course very important to think about, and the water cycle it creates the streams, lakes, and the wetlands, and and even the groundwater is important here. It creates the vegetation, and is necessary for the photosynthesis, and also the local climate, of course. So, and this water cycle, it's powered by the sun. It's the sun energy. And when you look at this, the land use and the type of vegetation is very important here. If you have forest or open fields, or you have urban areas, asphalt, it will be very big different, because it's important part of the vegetation makes more evaporation and transpiration and higher humidity to the air, and that you get a better climate in the place with this type of land use. And the surface runoff is lower, because the vegetation take care of the water, and you also have the infiltration and percolation down to the groundwater. That is very important too. And if this function, you have a the water flow is more equal in the river. But if you put asphalt on it, of course, it will be totally different. The groundwater percolation decrease, and lesser groundwater, and you get a lot more surface runoff, and the river will be high fast when it rain, and then lower and will be dry. So this is very important ecosystem services in this water cycle.
Okay, and now we'll say some quick words about, I think you can click forward to show everything, because I will not go through the text here. I will tell you very quick about first the number of species and what we know, and then about extinctions. Biodiversity is most often measured in number of species. That's the currency when you talk about both conservation and about biodiversity. And we have estimations of how many species are out there, and it's like it's said here, it's up to almost 10 million species, roughly. And we know a bit more than 1 million species. That we know means that they are described. Almost or more than half of the species are estimated to be insects. So insects is a really important group. And it's also the insects that we lack knowledge about. And also the marine diversity is a really big gap in our knowledge. There's a lot of undescribed species out there. And the funny thing is that also here in Sweden, which is, I mean, it's the home country for Linnaeus, but still we have a lot of insects that are not described. Not as much as if you go to Cameroon or Indonesia, but still there are undescribed species also in Sweden. And the last thing here is it would take a lot of effort to describe all species, of course. Can just imagine, we on the museum where I'm sitting right now, we are 10 persons working with the collections, and 4 of us are actively doing research. It takes quite a few museums to finish this task. So instead we have to do estimates, and we cannot wait to know all the species or to know about the diversity. We need to act, because take the next slide there, Peter, because extinctions, and you can go on, I don't remember what's in the slides. we have a huge impact on the extinction rate, and it is very dramatic. And the problem is that the first species to disappear are the naturally uncommon species, and as most species are insects, the typical species that go extinct is an unknown, quite rare small bug that no one that we don't even know about. So a lot of these extinctions happen right in front of our eyes without us noticing, and the effects is impossible for us to know. And it will definitely, this is quite serious. I usually now biodiversity loss and climate change is the two big problems that are really one problem, but climate change will not by itself affect us in a way that we notice before maybe a few cities ends underwater, but no really big effects before the biodiversity change will have effects that are much bigger. So it's something to take seriously. Just 2 slides to make this bright day a bit darker. Sorry for that. But it's important, and to know it we can change it. It's very, that's why.
Yeah. And I think it's also very inspiring that the diversity is there. Yeah. And how it developed and can develop, and we are a part of it. So yeah. You have seen this map before lunch, and this is the catchment area. But the catchment area is very important to see, but it's not so many people that have seen it before, so we're not used to see this kind of map. But you can think about which catchment area are you in now, or so. What does the water go away, or what is it coming from? So I think the map is very important because you can begin to understand how the water is linking the whole landscape. And if you do something in one part of the catchment area, it affects other parts, of course. And this upstream part are very important for Gothenburg, of course. But they who live in Gothenburg, they haven't seen this picture before, so they don't know that. But the wetlands and the streams and lakes are very important here, and how they are treated, of course. So yeah.
Yes, so going into ecosystem services, that's what this workshop or this this part will should be about. And ecosystem services can be a bit tricky to understand. What is ecosystem services? And it's in fact, yeah, you can go ahead and show them all, I guess. This idea about ecosystem services is a very good way actually to show the value of natural habitats or actions we make to make actually climate actions, for example, or anything. A river can have ecosystem service. You can count what service does this river serve humanity, and you can transform that to calculate money actually, and that is a good way, or good, but it's a necessary way to be able to talk to the stakeholders. And you can have here is a list of examples: water regulation, water purification, and that comes. So how much is pure, healthy water? How much is that worth, actually? And groundwater accumulation vary. We hear it on the news every summer that the lack of accumulation or lack in balance is very critical, can be very critical. So to keep it stable is really, it's a benefit for both the nature and for us. And the most important thing here, because you can add to this list, you can add hundreds of points, I guess, but very wise of the Peter, you added the last one, life for its own worth, because the name ecosystem service or services is well, just as it suppose it is a service, like the nature serves a service for us as humans, and that is not, of course, it's not the case. The idea here is to twist it in that way to so we can talk to stakeholders, but very important to keep in mind that, of course, the nature is for nature's own sake. It's there for it's not there for us. We are part of it. We are one of the species in the biodiversity, and we are not unnatural. We are definitely natural, and all the things we do. So it's a very important thing to keep in mind, even if we talk about ecosystem services and put it in monetary values and so on. So it's very important. But now Peter will talk about the tasks for today's work, and keep this ecosystem service idea in your mind.
I also have some pictures from the nature in the catchment area, so you can see how it looks like. And here you don't see any water, but there is water in the ground. It's a bog that's very usual, common in the area. With when you have a lot of rain, and you can see it's a forest with water, swamp forest, and you can there is a small creek, but it's water, and they are vulnerable. They are sensitive for for forest production, for example. And it can be small lakes like this with different animals, and so. And it's a lot of small lakes in the area, and also bigger lakes, and there's a bigger creek. And
all these photos are from the catchment area, right?
Yes. And here's the Mölndal River, or upstreams in the more natural areas, and it's very, very nice. And you have pearl mussels here, and trouts, and so it's a very nice nature near Gothenburg. Yeah, there's a pearl mussel, and to the left there's a trout. And a little bit downstream is more slow flowing parts with different insects that hatch from the river.
And you have seen the larvae today?
Yes, there were some larvae for today, and they are very, very nice when they are adults. Very beautiful insects that you easily can see, and hopefully you can see them in Gothenburg too. Nowadays, yeah, and they can be ponds, small ponds with a lot of life, of course, and salamanders and so on, and dragonflies that hatch from. They climb up on the vegetation from the water after perhaps 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they hatch and you get the adult dragonfly. It's amazing. And here's groundwater that come up from the ground and near the river. So it's a kind of spring here. And here also a lot of animals, and those are very nice to listen to in the spring. The sound from frogs to play. And here's also, it can also be ditches, or it can be small ditches with water, of course. A lot of water courses have been made to ditches. And here's a place. This is from my place in Skene. This is stormwater ponds near where I live. So this is also, you can do this river walk along this ponds, of course, and look at the water and look at the environment and talk about the environment and look at the animals and plants and so on, and how it looks like. And here's in the middle of Gothenburg with Liseberg in the background. So it can be very, very different environments. But you have seen some natural environments here from the catchment area and how it looks like. Yeah. And here we have some suggestions of some examples of tasks that we will invite you to make for a test. And we will invite you to find water, some kind of water near you. It can be small, it can be very big. So, and you can start, if you don't know where, you can start looking at the map. And if you are in Sweden, we have a good map so that you can use, and you can search for Sveriges länskarta. And that's very good, because there you can see also small blue lines that the streams. And then if you find this place somewhere, we will invite you to listen, to be there, to listen. How is the sound? Listen to the sound. What do you hear? And you can close your eyes and just, perhaps it's a lot of traffic or not. We will see. Smell. What do you see? How does it feel there in the place? Yeah, and then you can note, for example, is it a river, or brook, or ditch, or pond, or lake, or wetland, or whatever? Is it natural or man-made? And the question can be, where does the water go? Perhaps it's a little small catchment area. It can be very small, part of a bigger catchment area. And where does the water come from? Perhaps it's hard to see, but you can try, or you can try look at the map and try to see where it goes. Perhaps it's easier. And you can also note, is there any green zones surrounding this water, with nature between the water and the street or buildings or fields or plantations or so. And what kind of nature is there? How does that look like? Can you be there? Is it possible to walk there and be there? And you also, you're not biologists, I think. So, but you can, if there are any plants or fungus or animals or anything like that, take a photo of it. So you can bring it in if you find something, of course. We don't need a name, but we can see it and we can perhaps talk about it. And you also can think about what ecosystem service do you think this area where you are contributes to? It can be especially one perhaps or several different ecosystem services that you can think about. And of course, perhaps you get thoughts or questions when you are there. You can take a note and bring them into the meeting. And we have thought that we think that you can use the Climate Scan app here. I think that's a good way. So you can take, if you have the app on the mobile, perhaps, I don't know. So you can take photos and take a lot of photos if you want. You can take close photos or the whole environment. And you can also, I think you can, if you have some thoughts here, if you, from the questions or the task here, you can write notes in the Climate Scan app too. So you document it there. So, and then we come together again, and then we will see what you have found or so, and we can talk about it together, what it is.
Does it sound doable?
Is it possible for you?
Yes, I think so.
Hmm?
Great.
Do you have, I think perhaps you are all in the city, all of you, in some urban areas, but if you have nature in nearby, you can try to reach it, but take the water near you if you can find someone something.
Yes, and it's good that you in the morning already had the experiment with Climate Scan. So now all of you have it on the app or know how to upload there. So you can feel free to upload with the same tag of ClimateCafe Gotenborg Mölndal. So we can look at the things you map later on together. So just in a similar way, but then just like Peter explained about water bodies. And I have made a screenshot. I put it in the chat so that all of you have this instruction.
Very good.
Yeah.
And yes,
and when do we meet?
What's the hour? What's the time?
We are 15 minutes later than we thought, I think. But
what do you think? 3 o'clock? Would that be possible, or is it too short? Or
maybe the students can say, because you guys already did in the morning, you had 1 hour. Was this too much? Was this enough? Maybe you can advise us.
Perhaps you need a little more time.
3 o'clock is okay for me.
Okay, and for you, Gianluca, you also wanted to say
maybe a little
something?
more time.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe quarter past.
Yes, I think so.
Quarter past, because then we have 45 minutes.
Yeah.
to discuss and see what you found and so on.
Yeah, and maybe for the ones who are back earlier, you can already prepare and like make sure that the photos are online, and so that we have more time to talk about it, because last time we were a bit in a rush to share. But, yeah,
it's great that you had some practice this morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's good. Any questions? Or do you know
yeah,
what,
one
what to
question.
do?
Is the idea that we just map nature on ClimateScan or something else?
Yes, not just nature, because all water is of course nature. So you can just, it can be man-made or in the city, or of course with if you have water environment, aquatic environments. But it's nice if we can get some kind of nature surrounding it, but doesn't have to, of course.
The absolutely best thing is to have a variety, of course. But
Yeah.
that we don't, that we cannot know that.
No.
Let's see what you found.
Is always, of course, nature in the water in different ways. So and around the water. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe it could be that you take a picture of the water body that you pick in your neighborhood or around you, and then just examine it. And if you see some species, then you can take a picture of them too and attach it to the same point in the ClimateScan. So just the pictures together. Yeah, I
And you
think
also,
indeed focus around the water body, just if you pick one, and whatever you can find to kind of describe it or document it. Yeah.
And of course, it don't need to be an open water. I mean, it can be because water can be a visible water body, easy to see. It can be a river, a creek, a pond, or whatever. But it can also be a marshland or a wet area where you don't see the water as a water surface. It can be water in the ground or in whatever. So you pick your water in the way you find it and want it. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's get started.
Yeah. We see you later.
15:15.
Yeah. Good luck.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck.
See you in a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Have fun.
See you.
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Will do.
Great.